The Winter Olympics opening ceremony will kick off tonight in Beijing, the first city to host both the Summer and Winter Games. But with China still pursuing a zero COVID-19 policy, the event will look and feel very different to the 2008 Games. For one, it's taking place in a so-called closed-loop bubble with the nearly 3,000 athletes and tens of thousands of support staff, volunteers and media cut off from Beijing's general population. The Games will also rely almost entirely on man-made snow. For more on the Games, let's talk to our China correspondent, Danson Cheong in Beijing. Hi, Danson. So what's the mood like in the city? Are residents excited about the city hosting the Olympics? And how does it compare to the mood back in 2008?
Well, Olivia, if you've ever been in Beijing during the Chinese New Year period, you'll know that it's very quiet. And, this year is no different. There's really not much of a buzz, to answer your question. Up until the last 2 weeks or so, many streets in the city, didn't have kind of banners or billboards, the kind of decorations to welcome the Olympics. And I think the main reason is because of COVID. Beijing detected its first case of Omicron I think sometime in the middle of last month. And since then, they've tested millions of people, they've locked down, entire neighborhoods and restricted travel during this period. So the sense I sort of get from people are that, they're not really very excited about the Winter Olympics. In 2008, it was a different picture altogether. I think China then was very excited and eager, and people, would come from all over the country, to Beijing for the Summer Olympics then. I think something like over 500,000 people signed up to be volunteers. But Beijing residents I speak to today, even though they have fond memories of 2008, these days their concern, is more about how the Games have brought all these inconveniences. It's so hard to travel out of Beijing now, and especially during this Chinese New Year period where it's a lot of these Chinese residents or Chinese people go back to their hometowns. So they look at the Winter Olympics and they sort of blame the Games, for bringing all of these inconveniences into their lives.
I see. Well, Danson, of course, as you know, much of the international news coverage has been on China's zero COVID-19 strategy and diplomatic boycotts from countries for the Winter Olympics. What's been Beijing's response to all of that, and what do authorities hope that this Games will be remembered for?
Well, China has said repeatedly that it does not care, whether or not Western nations attend the Winter Olympics, and the foreign ministry says again and again that it was not intending to invite these leaders, from the US and the UK to the Games anyway. I think the most notable leader in town is Russian President Vladimir Putin. So the absence of leaders, from countries like the US, UK, Canada and Australia, I think is going to draw attention to the reason for these boycotts, which is, the human rights violations in China. And you can imagine, national broadcasters, sort of panning over the world leaders, in the spectator stands, and then they're going to have to talk about why, certain world leaders are not here and, draw attention to some of these things that are happening in China. As to your question, on what Beijing hopes to get out of this Winter Olympics, I think the Games, have brought China quite a big boost. It's helped them create this whole winter sports industry. It will continue to help boost tourism and economic development. I think that's quite a feat. Until recently, I think nobody would have thought of Beijing as a winter sports destination. But I think at this point, dealing with Omicron, I think China just wants the Games to go without a hitch, without leaks of COVID into the local population. I think if they manage to do that, it will help make a statement, that even with this more infectious variant, Beijing was able to hold a mega event like the Olympics.
Thanks for the update, Danson. China correspondent Danson Cheong. Arriving in Beijing last night, Singapore's President Halimah Yacob will attend the Winter Games opening ceremony this evening. She'll also hold talks with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and President Xi Jinping over the weekend before returning to Singapore on Sunday. You can read more at str.sg/Asia.